Holy shit, guys. Is this what I think it is? The Whack Shack Nova with the twin billet 7875s and the homemade intercooler and everything is on the dyno and ready to go with the 105-pound injectors from my truck in it, and everything's amazing, and we're going to see how much power it makes, and it's going to be awesome. Except for we have this weird issue now where I'll show you a clip right. The car and I'm accelerating and I kind of hear it stumbling, and I'm like, okay, maybe it's just super lean. It wasn't even that lean, but I tossed a bunch at it so it had like a 13.0 in it, and I'm holding it and you can see me turn my head and I'm looking at Ackerman or somebody that's there, and I'm like, do you hear that? It's like blah 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 blah, and we're like, what the fuck is that? So anyway, sounds like it has a miss, so we go over the plugs, we put plugs in this thing. It's still there. Then we start to question if the injectors and coils are good. We can't really find a problem. We're swapping things. We can't find broken plugs. We're like, does it have a bad valve spring or is something else going on? And I'm like, you know what? For fun, let's just load. I guess here's the backstory. We loaded 1.5 firmware on because it has dome control. And for you guys that might not know what that is, it is a CO2-based boost control strategy that lots of race cars use. If you're familiar with what's called the AMS 500 and AMS 1000 boost controller, you can plot a certain amount of pressure to be added on top of the wastegates. It's very nice. It allows you to run like a 3-pound spring, hook the car, and immediately ramp up to 20 some pounds of boost over a timer, usually like a second or a second and a half, to hook up like a 7-second car. We had it on Mark's Notch, we have it on Mark's Camaro, and we're looking forward to using it integrated. And we're like, you know what, just for the fuck of it, let's load 141 firmware that we had in last year that we had no problems with. And that kind of sucks because he has everything set up totally different from last year with his inputs, outputs, his boost controller, everything's working different. But anyway, sake of making the car run good, I save the tune, flash it back to 141, load his tune from last year, scale the fuel slightly, and we bring it up and it's fine. And we're like, well, maybe something's fucked up. We'll load 1.5 again. We'll load the tune for 1.5 again. And as soon as I did that, you could hear it. Now you could hear the difference. So right at idle, and if I would rev it, you could hear that it wasn't as clear. And if I bring it up in like 3,000 in second gear, you could just hear that it wanted to load up. It was just stumbling. It sounds like shit. You can hear it. You can go rewind and play the video again. So we're like, what the fuck? So we load the other firmware, the older 141, back in, and I go to make a dyno pull, and it doesn't end there. Let me tell you what. Cars are so much fun. This thing had no problems last year, went 850s, and I roll into it, and it makes approximately 10 pounds and spikes lean at the end of the pull. Like 5,000 RPM in, starts going lean. I'm like, what the fuck? Well, I whack it with 15% of fuel, roll into it again, goes lean. And I'm like, well, this isn't looking good. It has larger injectors by like 25%, and it can't stop running out of fuel. So I whack it with another 15% of fuel, and the VE starts to look like shit. It starts to look like we have a fuel issue. Roll into it again. Yep, definitely have a fuel issue. We checked the data log for fuel pressure. It dropped 25 pounds on 10 pounds of boost. So it went from 43 to like 50 something and then immediately plummeted to 30, 32, and that's when I would lift. So poor guy Ackerman climbs under there and takes apart his fuel filters, which we were sure were clogged. The fuel filters were fine. He has two fuel cells in that car, and they're split by ball valves. One's pump gas and one's race gas. Swap it to race gas, swap it to pump gas. Fuel pressure drops off. Take the regulator apart, investigate some of the lines. All sorts of other shit. Hours into this, can't find anything wrong. We just know fuel pressure's fallen off. So he either has like a line that has collapsed itself somehow, or his fuel pump has gone bad, which would surprise me because he doesn't have very many miles on it, and it's a MagnaFuel 4303. Incredible fuel pump. So I'll put in the video here at the end where you can hear how much cleaner it sounds. I mean, it would have been really nice to see this thing really make some fucking power. Take a look at this beast that he has created. Twin Civic radiators. He built his own air to water. Put fiberglass doors on with power windows in it. He's just got to get them painted. There's the dome control with a fill and a vent port and the dome pressure and it meters and fills and fantastic. And there's some fireballs from the dyno footage. You'll see that rolling up next. But what a shame. We all wanted to see how it would do, and you know, that's how this shit goes. It was first night out anyway, bound to have something happen, so luckily everything else was running pretty good other than the strange firmware issue. I sent that into the guy that writes the firmware for Megasquirt. I sent him the logs and the tune and everything, and I'm like, dude, we swapped it back and forth like miss, no miss, miss, no miss. Back and forth, nothing but firmware. Tune is pretty much exactly the same, so we're like, hey, what the hell's going on with this? So he's going to investigate that. But anyway, not the update I was hoping to give everybody, but you have something, and you can hear, you know, a decent dyno pull where I lift at like 6,000 and starts running out of fuel on 10 pounds of boost. And just with our initial pulls, it was already making 640 tire on 10 or 11 pounds, conservative on pump fuel, with no ice in the tank. It was starting to do really good. We were optimistic, so that is the long. I think that's really the only way to talk about this. Some text in there would not be good enough. So that's the long-winded update for this car. I've been waiting. He's been waiting. A lot of people are very curious to see how it would do. So that